How does it work? How do you see it? Jade?
Sure, so I run something called the Conservation Collective, which is a network of local environment foundations. We have 16 across the world and many more in the pipeline. And really we're addressing two major challenges facing environmental philanthropy. One, how do you raise more funds? And two, how do you get them into the hands of those best placed to make change? And it's often stated kind of statistic within the environmental NGO world that I think less than 3% of total philanthropic giving goes to the environment, versus 20% which goes to the arts. I have nothing against the arts, but if we're looking at the problems that we're facing in the world, it seems we should readdress this a little bit. Our model connects people to places. We've found people are far more likely to give if it's somewhere that they have this kind of nostalgic, romantic, emotional connection to, somewhere they go on holiday, somewhere they have their business, somewhere they grew up, somewhere they raise their children. They're far more likely to want to support it. And the kind of second part was, how do you get the hands into those best placed to deliver change? And we believe that we've proven as well that that's through grassroots initiatives, that they are the people who are working tirelessly, perhaps as a waiter by day, marine biologist at night, printing leaflets to campaign against the development which is affecting Posidonia. And it's really small sums of money that can make a huge difference. So just to give a kind of few really, I guess, key examples, I think, in this space. We started working in Greece, in the Cycladic Islands about 5 years ago, kind of storming in there saying we want to create marine protected areas, and everyone said, you're never going to get a marine protected area in Greece. It takes years of bureaucracy, the different people involved. And we have a local foundation in the Cyclades which worked with groups of fishermen to remunerate them for collecting plastic at certain times of year, when it was a very kind of sensitive spawning or nursery kind of or migration area for the fish. And as of yesterday, I think it was, the Environment Minister was in Amorgos declaring that next year they will kind of give he signed an MOU to say next year he will give a no-take zone MPA, depending on the scientific research that we are funding alongside Blue Marine Foundation, that Callum is a scientific advisor, and Chris, who spoke this morning, is one of the founders of. So our really small amounts of funding to get this going has now attracted funding from bigger groups, but also from ESPO, which is an EU-funded pot through the Greek government. So it's kind of nice to see how we can create that leverage by bringing in co-funding from private and public partners.
Right, it's quite amazing.
We're custodians of the places where we are, and this is what Mallorca Conservation is about. Mallorca Preservation gets persons together who are sensitive about the environment. It's a private initiative which raises funding and support to local environment projects. We're at the grassroots of the initiative of that project. People will come in with sometimes a very good idea that we support and develop, that we co-fund, where we raise awareness and we get more people on board. And Marcial is a very good example of that. We're also connected with the public work here. Coming after NOAA is quite overwhelming. We're very small compared to NOAA. Also, the Research Institute of the Balearic Islands, where Marcial is active, is also quite small. But you see the public and private collaboration actually taking place and moving forward. So we've had a very good display of the projects that we run on the sea. We've had the Legal Fisheries and Sustainable Fisheries Initiative. We have the nurse hound, a small shark that's very important to our environment, and that fishermen catch. We have a rescue center for animals which are caught in the ocean, and we also have a wonderful initiative called Met Garden, where it's about rewilding the oceans. Apart from this, Mallorca Preservation works inland. We work in many projects on the land with sustainable farming, renewable energies. We're engaging the audiences. With COVID, we've had many people deciding to come and live here, and they're very appreciative of the environment. They actually want to do something. And this is also what Mallorca Preservation is about action by individuals coming together with a good purpose. So try to think of it as a company. It's run like a company with a super lean management, with almost no overhead, and all of the resources coming in from external sources going 100% into the environmental project. And this also, and I think very important, in a networked approach through the Conservation Collective, which Jade is running, which is doing the same thing in other areas. So So the logic is quite simple. If everybody takes care of their backyard, which is what we can see, what we can feel, where we can actually make a big change, if we all do this, then we change the planet. And that's what really got me into Mallorca Preservation.
It's
Seagrass is like the most important ecosystem in the Mediterranean. In the Balearic Islands, well, just start with a plant, because I mean it's not a algae, it's a plant, which means like it has flowers, has seeds, have leaves, even have the seed is we call olive seed from the sea, no? Which is become an autumn. So it's a very important plant because it's very extent. It's one of the longest living beings in the world. I mean, it lives 1,000 years old. It's also very extensive. I mean, the distribution is huge. Can be for one plant can be 7 kilometers from one side to another, which is like this is like a super plant. I mean, it's really an amazing plant, a superior plant that also allows us to have this rich 1,500 kind of species in the Balearic Island, which live in its habitat. So I think which is important is that we want to protect the species and we want to keep the species alive, rather to protect the habitat. No? Apart of that, we also have a lot of ecosystem services like transparency of the water, which for us, you know, we live in a tourist island. Tourists come in summer and they see this transparency of the water. Also the oxygen that creates, the fish that we eat, maybe in the restaurants sometimes. And also, it's very important for the carbon sink. I mean, it really creates the scientists say they're talking about 15 times more than a tropical forest, which means they really create reefs. I mean, just like the coral reefs, we have the Posidonia reef, which is an amazing amount of dioxide of CO2, and a part of that, it also creates sand, which makes that it's not only the ecosystem is not only in the sea. There, then you can see there from 0 to 40 meters depth. It also, the sand arrives to our beaches, and it's this amazing soft sand that is full of shells that lives in the Posidonia. So when the storm comes, the water pushes to the sand. So that's why it's such important to protect them, because of carbon, all the ecosystem services, also fisheries, but also because of the lunar systems. If we lose, and we are having less and less every year because of the temperature of the sea, we're having heat waves of 29 3 times here in the Balearic Island, one at 31 degrees. So if we lose the Posidonia, we will lose the beach, we will lose the lunar system, we will lose our economic resource, which is the beach, no, where the tourists want to come. So I think it's because it's a unique plant. It's because also the ecosystem services, and also we need the Posidonia to have the best beaches in the world.
amazing how